Alright, boys, sharpen your pencils, because I'm going to take you to school again.
Welcome everyone, I'm Jordan Sharp. We're running through the off-season NBA team reports here at SBRforum.com, and it's time to take a look at one of the most improved teams in the NBA so far this off-season, and that is the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, when you finish as bad as the Pelicans did last season, 27-55 straight up, you have a lot of room for improvement, but they have made the jump with a couple of big off-season acquisitions. Now, last season, they were average against the spread right at 40 and 42 against the spread. They had a little bit of value as home favorites and as favorites to begin with, and the few times that they were favorites, I think they were favored maybe 14 times. They were 8-6 during that stretch, so they did have a little bit of value in a couple of areas last season, but not a whole lot to speak of ATS-wise or really over-under-wise, as they finished right around 500 on that aspect as well. However, this season, like I said, with a couple of transactions that they made, I think they're going to be outstanding defensively, both on the ball and at the rim, as well as become possibly that 8th or 7th seed in the Western Conference playoff race. Now, the first trade they made was a pretty big one in itself. They traded Nerlens Noel right after they drafted him 6th overall, as well as their first-round pick for next season to the Philadelphia 76ers for Jrue Holiday, an all-star point guard. Now, obviously, that made their backcourt a little jammed up. So a few days later, they made a huge 3-team trade, which sent Robert Lopez, Terrell Harris, and Grievous Vasquez to Portland and Sacramento, which brought back Tyreke Evans and Jeff Withey, which is a huge deal for this team. So now, with a best starting 5 of Jrue Holiday, Eric Gordon when healthy, Tyreke Evans, Ryan Anderson, and Anthony Davis, this team is looking poised for a playoff run. They're going to be very good on the ball defensively with all those guards that I mentioned, all 3 of them outstanding defenders in their own right, and they had a lot of steals and blocks as well with Anthony Davis. And even if Gordon is clogging up the rotation with guys like Austin Rivers and such, he also could be traded, even though his contract is a bit of an albatross, which would be very difficult to trade, especially if he's not fully healthy. It's limited to 42 games last season. Davis, of course, only played 64 games. So a lot of health issues for this team, but if all things come together, I really like their chances, both in the NBA odds and to make the playoffs. This team could be very undervalued coming into the season, as they're still sitting at 100-1 to win the NBA title. Obviously, we're not going to go betting any future odds on them this offseason. However, when the time comes this season, I think they're going to be incredibly undervalued and probably flying under the radar, considering A, they're in a small market, and B, none of these moves have really rocked the NBA landscape as some of the other moves made this offseason. I do think the Pelicans going to have outstanding value, going to finish on the plus side of the ATS realm next season, be a very good bet for you in your NBA picks. That'll do it for me this time. Make sure you check out the article at SBRforum.com to get a little bit more in-depth in the analytics and the trends leading up to New Orleans last season. But until then, thanks for joining me this time. I'm Jordan Sharp.